All right, good evening. It's 6 o'clock. We're back in session. 6 o'clock. We're back in session. Thank you. All right, item number 3. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda as present. Can I get a motion, please?
Also move.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. Second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Story. Roll call, please.
Mr. DeFall?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Wood? Yes. Mr. Well?
Yes. Item number 4, recognition and awards. Mr. Miller.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wells. Best part of the agenda. Recognize our great students and staff. Tonight is Mr. Lilly, and I believe it's a middle school student, so Mr. Lilly.
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad there's some people here for this board. This is great. Savannah, come up here while I talk about you. This is Savannah Wilkinson. Savannah is currently an 8th grade student at New Richmond Middle School. Comes to us from Monroe Elementary, is that right? So she's a Monroe doctorate. In her time at the middle school, Savannah has taken every advanced course that we have to offer. She took as a 7th grader advanced ELA, advanced math, advanced science. As an 8th grader this year, she's doing the same thing, only she's taking advanced algebra 1 for high school credit and French for high school credit in addition to the advanced ELA and the advanced science classes that she's taking. Since that's not enough, Savannah is also a multi-sport athlete, and I don't say this number often. She is a 4-sport athlete at the middle school. She plays football. She is on the basketball team and missing practice right now, and I know she's itching to get downstairs. She is also on the wrestling team, and she's on the track team as well. So she does a little bit of everything. In addition to that, Savannah is also one of our Pride Crew members, and those students meet and welcome new students to our district. She gives tours to them on their first day of the building. She's the first face they see, and tells them all the things that they need to know. Part of that assignment as well is at the beginning of the year on the 6th graders' first day, she's one of the mentors that helps show the 6th graders around the building. So doing a ton of things for us as a middle school, and very proud to be able to acknowledge her. I do also want to share some specific words from one of her coaches, because he was extremely excited when I was talking to him about Savannah getting this award. He said the coaches and the teachers in the building all say that Savannah is the kind of students that our students should look up to, in addition to looking up to. She demonstrates all the characteristics that a leader should have. She helps other players and students know how things are done and will demonstrate to them the correct way. She leads by example and steps up when you need her to. Savannah is an excellent representative of the middle school, and I am overjoyed to give this award to her.
What's the name? Awesome.
We're so appreciative of what you bring to our school system. I know Mr. Stewart's probably already got plans for you for next year. So yeah, right. Would you please join us up by the backdrop to do a picture, please? Yeah, great. Have your parents come up.
Yes. You're gonna be in the picture. You guys have done this.
So you guys right up front. Right in the middle. Just lean right in the middle. Congratulations.
Close board.
Not today. Give him the Teresa.
I hear you.
Teresa.
Happy Christmas. I'll see you in January.
Just like
Sure.
Thank you so much. And for our second recognition tonight, we have Representative Adam Bird to recognize one of our great teachers in the middle school, Mr. Adam Moore. Mr. Bird.
Hey, thank you very much. It's great to be with you guys. It's nice to sit in the back row, too. I think this is the first time back since July of 2019, and I'm happy to be here for this occasion because I want to recognize Adam Moeller if Adam will come up here for a minute. And I know you guys have probably already recognized him and celebrated him and all of those kinds of things. So I apologize for my delinquency in being here to bring a commendation. But I do bring a commendation from the General Assembly in the state of Ohio. And so on behalf of Speaker Cupp and the rest of the General Assembly, I am really pleased to be here today to present you with this commendation. And you know, what you do is so important. And it's great to see a lot of teachers in the room. And you know, our profession needs more Adam Mollers. And I'm very thankful that New Richmond Schools has him. And there must have been somebody really smart that recommended you to the Board of Education back in 2012. And so he's getting it done. And so, you know, author, and I tell you, I have personal experience with the way that Adam Moller has worked with my own son. And so I know what kind of caring, compassionate person he is and how he goes above and beyond the call of duty. And the fact that he is recognized now by his peers, recognized by his peers here tonight, as somebody who is innovative, and is that a word we need in education right now, is innovation. And so I'm very thankful for what you bring to that through your innovation. I walked personally into his classroom multiple times, and I can tell you that he is active, he's energized, he's engaged, he's not the kind of guy who sits behind the desk, and he is working closely with his students every day, and I saw it firsthand, and very pleased that he's the kind of guy that's working with our students here at New Richmond. So, you know, I think about what we've got in education in Ohio, and it's important that we continue to attract the Adam Mollers, and we're running out of people who want to come and be teachers, people who want to come and have an impact on students' lives. So we're very grateful for what you do for this community, for our county. And so on behalf of Speaker Cupp and the rest of the General Assembly, thank you so much for what you do, and a commendation for being named Teacher of the Year here in the state of Ohio.
Thank you.
I would love to get a picture. Absolutely.
Thank you. You want to speak? Adam?
We'll do it after this.
Sure.
Adam
Moller, right? I'd like to say anything.
Right.
That's Adam. That's
Let's do it right.
Get that guy in the middle here.
That's okay.
That's all you're doing.
Get her in there.
I don't need a mic.
Let's keep going forward.
Good.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
You want to say a few words, Adam? Are you good?
Right. I know for sure.
Yes. Well, we're on.
Floor is yours. Invitation.
I'll say this, when Mr. Bird said that he had a commendation for me, I'm going to be real honest with everybody. I had to ask him, I don't even know what that is. And so he had to explain that to me. But I'll say this, I'm really overwhelmed by all this. Needless to say, like, I don't know, I'm kind of speechless by all this, because I'm honest to God, I'm no different than any of these people out there. I see it every single day. I see all the innovative stuff that Allie is doing, that Andrew's doing with technology and engaging their kids, and quite honestly, like, I don't know, like, this is all fine and great and good, but at the end of the day, like, we're all doing it. We're all in it together. We all care about students. That's why we're all here. And so I just want to throw that out there, that we're all doing some great stuff. So, but that's all.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice job.
And just members of the board, I've asked Mr. Bird then, and out of respect for his time, if he'd like to take the chance to address the board any current legislative issues, items of interest. Mr. Bird.
Great, thank you, Mr. Miller. And so there's a lot happening in Columbus when it comes to education. It's certainly a hot topic. It's very important to people all over Ohio, and it's important because we've got to continue to attract a workforce to the state of Ohio. We've got a new battery manufacturer from South Korea that you may know is coming into the Jeffersonville area. You've got the Intel plant that's coming into Ohio. We've got another plant in northern Ohio, and then we have a mega site that is about 1,000 acres out in Mount Orab area, where Jobs Ohio and Ready Cincinnati are working together to try to attract a very large company that's looking for 1,000 acres to build a site and to employ people, and so we're going to have to wait and see what they're able to attract there. But what that means is it's important that we continue to grow a workforce, and I think we all know that's an important thing. So, as far as Tracy asked me to specifically talk about a couple of issues, and I'm going to bring up a couple of others just because I think they're hot topics in Columbus right now. But, he asked me about the safety grants. It's very unfortunate that no school in Claremont County was able to access the safety grant money, but I believe there's more there. There's another round of grants. And so I would say that I had no idea. Not one Claremont County school reached out to me. So reach out to me and let me know when that's going so I can, knock down that door too. And I want to be a part of that, and I want to make sure that I can help make the case for the needs of schools in Claremont County when it comes to safety grants and what's coming. You may have heard that there's been a lot of talk in Columbus about Senate Bill 178. I'm not sure how much that's caught your attention. Senate Bill 178 was originated in the Senate, and there was a strong push at the last second. We had our last session last week, which lasted till 6 in the morning, by the way. And so there was a strong push to try to get that across the finish line by the Senate. And so the House said no to that. And so, there was, it's a bill that says that the Department of Education, most of its responsibilities would be transferred to a new department that would be, the director of which would be appointed by the governor. And so because constitutionally the state school superintendent and the state board of education have to exist constitutionally, they would have a much reduced role and function. And so because that didn't pass, there was a lot of concern that we were trying to push too much through too quickly. That didn't make it. I'm sure that because it's a legislative priority for the Senate president, he will probably make sure that it gets reintroduced again in the next General Assembly. As far as some of the things that I've been up to, you may know that I had a bill that reached the governor's desk. He signed it on substitute teachers and trying to give you guys more flexibility in hiring substitute teachers. You would think that would be really simple. And it's a sign of the way things work in Columbus, that something that was already in effect, something that we were already using, but that it had a sunset clause, had to go through 3 or 4 or 5 drafts before we could get a draft that made everybody happy. And so, but that did finally make it. And that sounds really simple, right? I had a bill that I passed the House and the Senate last week. I hope that the governor will sign it soon. And this is a returning teacher bill that would allow teachers who have left the profession in good standing to come back. They've let their license lapse, but they've left because they've retired. They've left because maybe they want to go be a welder, or they want to be a researcher, or whatever the case might be. We want to attract them back, and they have to get their 6 semester credit hours while they've been hired. So it's kind of like an alternative licensure program for teachers who have left the profession in good standing. So when you think of bills that are that simple, that seem that difficult to get across the finish line, it makes you wonder, how are you going to get some of these other bills that are much more complicated and much more divisive, shall we say, among Ohioans? And I'm thinking about things that we're talking about in Columbus that are always coming up, things like restroom use and the way to handle students who have gender dysphoria issues, and how to handle students when it comes to sports and whether they should be allowed to play a sport that doesn't match their biological sex. And so how to deal with COVID vaccine issues, and whether, schools, there's still a lot of colleagues in Columbus who believe that we need legislation that would prohibit schools, whether it be K-12 schools or even institutions of higher ed, to keep them from discriminating against those who don't have a COVID vaccine. Okay, and I'm talking about things like not allowing you to finish out a program unless you have gotten the vaccine, mask requirements, and so you would be surprised to note that I've learned that there are still institutions of higher education in Ohio that are requiring that COVID vaccine. And so that's very concerning to some of my colleagues. The other thing that I think is really a pressing topic that people like Matt Pritchard ask me about all the time, and that's the funding issue. And so one of the latest rumors that I've heard recently is, we have the Cup Patterson Fair School Funding Program that was put into House Bill 110, that was not fully funded. Okay? And yet we have the backpack bill that's out there as well, which is a universal voucher bill. And I don't know whether it's true or not, but the latest rumor I heard was perhaps some kind of melding of those two and saying we will fully fund the Patterson program for public schools and do the voucher backpack bill at the same time. That might be some kind of compromise. I don't know where that's at. That's above my pay grade right now. And so members of leadership are probably talking about that at this point. You know, we still have other things that are out there. You know, I personally don't think that we as a state should continue to pay for every single student to take the ACT test in high school. No, we're doing that. Every single student is. How many students don't really want to take the ACT test? You know, we've got to find a better way to do that. I still have concerns about the report card. There are issues there that I think that need to be fixed. And third grade reading guarantee, we can't even get. I co-sponsored and strongly supported a bill that would remove the retention provision of the third grade reading guarantee. It's the only part of our accountability system in Ohio that punishes kids. Everything else, you know, doesn't have an impact on kids. And, you know, I can tell you personally from my own kids that they all develop at a different level, or a different stage. And they don't always read at the same time. And literacy is a very complicated thing. And so that's why I was for that bill, but people in the Senate shot that down. But we'll continue to do that. Do you have any questions about a particular bill?
It was a great update. Not so much a question about a bill, but there was an article in the Dispatch about a month ago that said that the state of Columbus is sitting on $10 billion in unused COVID funds. And I want to catch a cold with this. But the rainy day fund is flush. Legislatively, it can't be any more money put in there. There's $10 billion in unused COVID funds, which we, the taxpayers, have sent to Washington, D.C., we'll send back to Columbus. So have there been conversations about what's going to happen with this $10 billion?
Every day.
We're not asking for the $10 billion. Just give us one. And we'll be good. We'll call it a day.
We don't want to be greedy.
Yeah, right.
Because 3% interest on $10 billion is $300 million.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's real money. And we don't have the resources we need to help our kids and our teachers.
There are so many people in Columbus right now with their hand out wanting that money.
Yeah.
For sure. And so you may have heard that we have a new Speaker of the House that's going to be sworn in on January the 3rd. And what that means is the finance chair, who has a lot of responsibility in this area, obviously, who has been in this position for over 20 years between the Senate and the House, he likely won't be the finance chair again next General Assembly. So we're going to wait and see how that goes. Certainly the governor and his staff play a large role in talking about that and you know, trying to push certain groups. But man, there are a lot of groups out there. There are groups that come and they want to talk about computer programs for kids to help catch them up. They want that money for their program. And there are just all kinds of groups out there right now that want that. And so I can't give you anything specific or solid about how that money will be used. But it does have requirements. It does have some safeguards, guardrails to it set forth by the Biden administration.
Because it's ESSER monies.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else?
For the last 2 years, we've had language that was written in House Bill 110. It was passed in biennium for bridge money to help school districts like New Richmond who have suffered devaluation with power plants. We're hoping to see that again in the next biennium budget. We would encourage you to try to work for us and legislate on that behalf. It was $1.8 million the last 2 years. Helps us bridge the gap a little bit for what we're facing with our financial difficulties. But we really encourage you to help us and see, make sure that language is back in the new biennium.
So I have you know I don't know how much the board knows, how many the community knows, but members of locally have asked me about that bridge money in the last couple of years, and I've struggled to make headway because they knew the members of the Finance Committee in Columbus had known that we had previously given some bridge money to New Richmond a couple of years ago and to Grant. And so I'm hopeful that we get some new finance chair that has no knowledge of the past history and we can make the case again.
We continue to see big losses in that
Yeah.
on the appraisal. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for being
Exactly.
here,
Appreciate
and
it.
I am going to leave. Thank you very
Thanks,
much. I
Mark.
appreciate what you guys do.
Thank
You don't get paid much, and you get a lot of headaches. So very thankful for the job you do. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
All right, item 5, public participation. Okay. Moving on. Item 6, committee reports. Mr. Miller?
I'm thanking Mr. Default, Grant Career Center. Thank you.
Yeah, since our last meeting, we've had 2 meetings at Grant, and we had a presentation by the students and teachers about the Give Back program at our November 28th meeting. There were a total of 54 projects done on that day, 25 in Bethel, 11 in Felicity, 7 in New Richmond, and 11 in Williamsburg. Overall response about whether they should do this as an annual event was 100% yes. So we're looking for more events to happen like that next year. Then the other big thing we hit was the 5-year forecast, deficit spending every year. At the end of our 5-year forecast, we're still forecasted to have 172 true cash days at the end of that forecast of 27. So we're dwindling away at our cash balance too. We had a meeting last Thursday, again, 12:15 meeting. Principal Barry Dalton was there and talked about success plans for a systemic process that they're starting. It's to help students determine their goals for high school and after graduation, what they're going to be doing after life, after they get out of high school. That's when life really begins, right? So trying to help them to create that path. It provides that intervention to make students future ready, helping to guide them to achieve their individual career pathways. So teachers are all going to be creating that, working with each one of the students to create that, starting with their junior year. And then, some kids have unrealistic goals. I want to be a professional football player, but I've never stepped on a football field. So, it's got to be realistic about stuff. So it's trying to keep them focused on what's realistic for them. Let's see, budget report, we're on target with our forecast. We've got a financial statement audit going on right now for our 21-22 school year, and it's on track to be complete by the 31st. And we have an organizational meeting set up for the 19th. That's our regular board meeting also. That's it. We also talk about the tentative dates for the 23 board meetings. Pretty much the same schedule what we're on now on Thursday nights, about the third Thursday night of every month. That's pretty much it.
An active month.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Curriculum instruction.
All right, we had a meeting and curriculum instruction committee meeting on December 7th. Panorama data repository was reviewed with the committee. We looked at the information in it and what its capabilities are. And then the second big item was secondary curriculum guides were shared with us, which are on the agenda. These are for both the middle school and the high school. The academic report later is going to have the first reading of those and those updates for everybody to look at.
Awesome. Mr. Wells, Business Advisory Council.
Yeah, folks, that's a superintendent committee, so it's not actually a board committee. But I encourage, if you want a great evening of interaction with the business owners in New Richmond, it's an outstanding time. It's majority of alumni that would be for our time, and the big takeaway that I got from them was they were so impressed with how the district and how the community came together this year for the homecoming parade. So they spoke a lot on that. Mr. Stewart shared some things going on at the high school and involving the community as well. But it really is, it's once a quarter, and if you have a free moment and want to come and listen to some old stories from some of the old timers, it's pretty entertaining. So, but really the big thing was the homecoming celebration. They hope to improve that for next year.
In further collaboration with the school district and the community, what a great River Village Christmas celebration we had. And I don't want to begin to mention names so I'll miss somebody. Whoever organized the UC Orchestra Quartet and From Out of Nowhere at Cranston Church on that Saturday was incredible. It was beautiful. It was just fabulous. So proud of the community, so proud of our kids. It was just outstanding. So again, part of that business advisory council. It was great. Thank you. Mr. Zim, Safety Committee?
All right, the Safety Committee is a group of a superintendent's committee as well. We meet with all the first responders for all the different departments that respond to our schools. On December 2nd, we had a meeting. We talked about what Mr. Burgess brought up about the school safety grants and how we didn't get any funding for that and how we're reaching out to him. And he talked about that today. We also always review drills, talk about feedback we get from the drills and what we're going to do with that information. It's a great lessons learned and sharing. And then there's also a seatbelt check at the high school where they checked the teen drivers for seatbelt compliance and gave them a Papa John's certificate for a free pizza just to kind of encourage that safe behavior. So that was the update from the Safety Committee.
Nice. And then the Mental Health Summit, Mr. Wells, I'd like to defer that to the superintendent's portion, if I may.
Sure. All right, let's move on to number 7, then superintendent's report.
And we had covered this at the last board meeting, and hopefully our community had a chance to view that or at least read the updates from there. We, the district, the board, understands what a big deal it is when we close school. And I keep saying this, we understand it impacts families, kids. It's challenging, especially for the younger kids. Parents are trying to get to work and get childcare and so forth. So it's not done lightly. This last go around, just so everybody sees the autopsy, what happened, it was 2 Wednesdays ago, excuse me, about 12:30, 1 o'clock, got a text from our transportation supervisor, Mr. Blue Cox. Says, right now, we're okay, but we're running low on drivers. He texted me a couple hours later, 2 o'clock. Okay, if he drives, the director, his assistant, and our mechanics, if they all drive, we should be okay. They said we can't lose anybody else. He said, I got 2 going to the doctor. So, okay. So I had an idea of this probably wasn't going to end well. But that's why we get to talk to the principals and our staff. Let's refresh people's mind what remote schedule looks like. And by then, the high school day was almost finished. So that really puts us behind the 8 ball there. We had a curriculum instruction meeting that day. And so as we're meeting, it's about 5:30. The phone rings, and I see it's from Mr. Cox. And I knew right away what it was. And the meeting was wrapping up. So this when we found out we went from we're okay, now the mechanic's going to drive, but now we were 6 short. And for a district as small as we're done. We can't. We need all of our drivers to take our kids to the schools to come back. So that's what brought about the decision for a non-instruction day for that Thursday. It wasn't enough time for teachers and kids to prepare for a remote day. That's why we pushed it that Friday. So hopefully those days will be very few and far between. But bad weather happens, illnesses happen, and it was a good test run for us. So just wanted to share that with our public. The next thing I'd like to share with the board, and there's no action needed tonight, and probably maybe none for the next some board meetings, is very quickly the governor's put into place the requirements and trainings for arming of staff. We spent the first 4 or 5 board meetings of this year talking about this topic, gathering research, gathering information. It appears the state is putting the final pieces of the puzzle together on that. So maybe after the organizational meeting in January, at our next full board meeting, we can pick up the discussion again of the direction that the board would think that they would like the district to head in, whether to pursue it or finish the conversation. Just want to put it on your radar screens. The last item, and it ties into the memorandum of understanding. I mentioned this at the last board meeting, but I want to give some furtherance to it. So we've had some mental health issues with students here in our district recently. And we pulled together a group of individuals, teachers. John, Amy were there as board representation, mental health supports, counselors, principals, so on and so forth. What are we doing to support our kids? Are the things that we should be doing more of? So we met a couple times, a wonderful group. The conversation is rich, it's deep. And so where we've landed, and which leads into this memorandum of understanding, Our high school principal has had experience with a group called 1 in 5. They work with a lot of school systems in Southwest Ohio because 1 in 5 people have thoughts of suicide and so forth. What we'd like to do is enter into a memorandum of understanding with 1 in 5. It is a non-binding memorandum. At any point, either side can walk away, and it's no harm to anybody. What we would like to do with this organization, pending board approval, is we would survey, first of all, our staff and just about mental health issues and see where they are, our whole staff. We'd like to do that on the week we get back from holiday break. We then would like to survey our parents. When we send that link out to parents, we'll explain why we're doing it. We're going to gather their data. It's anonymous. It's SurveyMonkey. It's anonymous. Here's the link. But we're also going to tell them, we're also going to survey your kids, secondary. They don't survey elementary kids. We're going to survey your kids. Here's the survey. And then we're going to give them also an opt-out letter. So if they don't want their kid to participate, all well and good, fine. And we worked with our secondary administration. We've got a specific date set in mind in January during advisory when they'll complete the survey, so no loss of instruction time. So our staff, our parents and caregivers, and our students, 1 in 5 gathers all this data, and then they're going to come to our next mental health summit and share the data. And what they do is they look at it as a district, but also per building, and say where the weak spots are, where are the holes in what we're doing. Then they help the schools set plans for how to mediate those gaps to make sure we're providing the best mental health supports we can, not just for our kids, but for our staff. It's been a challenge the past couple of years for everybody, and nobody is excluded from that. So that's the overall plan, and that is the impetus behind the memorandum of understanding. And so, Mr. Wells, for the action item tonight, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
So let's move on to item number 8 there, memorandum of understanding. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the New Richmond Exempted Village School District, Board of Education, and 1 in 5 as presented. Can I get a motion, please?
Also move.
Thank you. Second. Questions, comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
All right, Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Defoe.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, Human Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. The HR consent part of the agenda. I'm going to stop and pause for a second. We are most happy to welcome Mr. Garth Shanklin, pending board approval, to our ranks. He's going to be our new public relations coordinator. We put it out there, and we really had some outstanding candidates. We did. We brought in 5. All 5 could have done the job. Mr. Garth Shanklin emerged as our leader and the pack, and we had a committee that interviewed him, and we offered him the job, and he still decided to come here, right? So we did a couple of onboarding days with him Thursday and Friday, and he has hit the ground running. So pending board approval, we're happy to have him join our ranks. Our classified employees is again, we continue to try to fill our tremendous need for paraprofessionals. We have 1 person for a substitute classified employee, and then as we've done our supplemental table for winter, and again, everything's in black has already been previously approved. It's the names in red that are the new names. Just got a few, and I think 1 volunteer, yes, for bowling. A stipend for a head maintenance stipend for an extra $1 an hour, and then the mentor stipends, of which we are the flow through. Mr. Wells, that is the human resources consent items.
Thank you.
Part.
So it's recommended that we approve items 9A through 9F. Can I get a motion, please?
Moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Story. Need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Defoe. Mr. Defoe. Questions, comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mr. Defoe,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Wu,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes. Item number 10.
No turning back now.
Okay.
All right, welcome aboard.
Item Mr. Pritchard, item number 10, Treasury Report and action items.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Last month I had the 5-year forecast and a lot to share with you. This month I hardly have anything to share with you. We do have the approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes for November, as well as the regular meeting minutes for November. Financial reports. November closed out the 5th month of the fiscal year, which means we should do 40% through the year. I think some of the big numbers that jump out at me are, if you could scroll down just a little bit, Mr. Miller, the total inflows line, we're at 40.42% for the year. We're right on target. And if you can scroll down a little bit more to the bottom, total outflows, we're at 40.05% of our total outflows. So you want to talk about almost perfect in the accounting world. We're 40% through on both sides. So, we did get a little over $2 million deregulation payment from the state. Those are always good to get. We're supposed to get them. That's 1/2 of our payment. We got it. They waited until November to get that to us, but we'll take it. We're glad to have it. That's all I have for the financial report. Acceptance of donations. We're always appreciative of those. An anonymous donor. We do have some approval of some disposals tonight. That's an attachment. We are going to establish the new Beth Webster Memorial Scholarship Fund, Monroe Elementary, and the New Richmond High School staff work together to get this established. We're very appreciative to see this and everything she went through. So we'll have that on the books for to benefit students here in the future as well. And that is all I have for the Treasurer's report.
It's recommended the Board of Education approve items 10A through 10F. Could I get a motion, please?
Also,
I'll second. Questions, comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Wooden,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes. Item 11, appointment of President Pro Tempore and establishment of organizational meeting dates. So at this time, I am taking nominees to be our President Pro Tempore. Any
Fine
nominees?
job, Todd.
One more meeting.
Any other? All right, so the Board of
We have to pick a date too.
please,
We have to pick a date too.
don't we have to vote on that?
You do not.
Yeah.
I want it to be no, that's all.
Not the,
All right, so the Board of Education
it's a
agrees.
requirement. You can't vote on it. You have to do it.
The Board of Education agrees to appoint Todd W. Wells
Yes.
as President Pro Temp, and we've established the date of January 3rd, 2023 at 5 p.m. for our first 2023 organizational meeting.
Mr. President.
No vote, I guess. All right. Item number 12, academic report.
Dr. Hollingsworth?
Good evening. Tonight we're submitting for first reading the two handbooks, our high school and middle school handbooks. Mr. Stewart will review our high school handbook, and then Mr. Lilly will review our middle school curriculum guidance. Mr. Stewart.
Dr. Hollingsworth?
It's a big document.
It is, yes,
You guys did a great job.
it is.
But
Thank you.
anyway.
So I'd like to highlight 3 proposed changes in the high school curriculum guide for next school year. The first proposed change will occur in our math department. So we are asking to create a new math course at the high school, Applied Algebra 1. The rationale for creating this new course is basically we need to offer more support for our students who are not proficient in Algebra 1. Our current sophomores who took the OST last May, 53% were deemed non-proficient. That's over half of our freshmen aren't ready for Algebra 1, never mind the OST at the end of the year. So knowing that coming into next year, we thought we had to better support those students and meet them where they are rather than overwhelming them in a class they're probably not ready for. So this Applied Algebra 1 course is kind of a slow walk up to Algebra 1. It's a high school accredited course by the state of Ohio, but it's an introduction to kind of foundational math and power standards in Algebra 1. So this would kind of create a new pathway for the students coming out of 8th grade who are deemed to be non-proficient at the end of their 8th grade year they'd be placed into this Applied Algebra 1 course as a precursor for taking Algebra 1 their 10th grade rather than 9th grade. That gives a year of foundational math instruction, plus a year to become better students. Organization, homework routines, study habits, things like that. That's another year to grow as a student. They would then take their OST while taking Algebra 1 in 10th grade. We feel this is one of those red flag issues. If half of our freshmen aren't ready, we've got to help them as they walk in the door. So our math department is on board with this. We're looking to put this in place next school year as a way to better support those students who need a little bit extra help coming out of 8th grade for their Algebra 1 skills. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Okay.
And just the long term, by long term I mean
Yeah.
some years, 2-3 years, is to have Algebra 1 offered at the 8th grade.
8th grade. So this would be kind of a Band-Aid, kind of a placement holder until we get that kind of long-term plan in place with this class going down to 8th grade.
Our new math adoption this year will take
Start
us a
that
long way
process.
towards start
Yeah.
that process, yes.
Yeah. Our second proposed change would be in our business department. So the state has mandated that the current freshman class of this year, by the time they graduate, every student's going to have a half credit, semester credit of a course in financial literacy, which is basically kind of self-banking is what it is. So we talked about it as a group, and we're going to try to put that in place for next year. It's going to be a sophomore level class. It will replace our CCR course we currently teach, College and Career Readiness. But we don't want to get rid of all the topics and content in that important course. We're going to pull out the power standards in CCR and fold it into the kind of personal financial literacy course that the state is mandating that we start next year anyway. So it'll stay a 10th grade course. It'll be like for like. It won't involve any new staffing. And we have teachers on board ready to teach it. The curriculum has been set basically by the state, so we're good to go as soon as we get the green light to put that in our master schedule for next year. Any questions, concerns on that? All right, and our third is in our ELA department. We are proposing a new course next year in our English department. I want to get the name right because it's kind of long. It's an advanced supernatural horror and literature and media course. This builds off on a course we already have, which is college prep horror and literature. This would be a senior level course, an advanced level, building on the horror and literature class that we already have. It takes a deeper dive into the genre, adds different platforms of horror, podcast, true crime, science fiction, fantasy, things like that. But more importantly, the rationale for this is those juniors who are currently in AP Lit, they need to keep that senior year English advanced on track. We don't have a lot of senior level English electives in our ELA department. What they're doing is they're taking maybe Advanced Writers Comp, Advanced English Comp for semester 1, and they're taking CCP courses semester 2 off campus, and we're losing those kids. So this allows those current juniors to stay on an advanced English track their senior year and keep them in the building by offering another senior level semester advanced course. And we're confident that it's going to grow and be a pretty popular course in the high school. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, that's our kind of three main proposals for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. I don't have many changes on my registration handbook this year. A lot of updates of names and some shifting around. A few things that I do want to bring your attention to. On page 2, you'll see our reading intervention programs being taken out. That just went by the wayside with the adoption of our new ELA curriculum. And then you'll see that also reflected on page 9 with those course descriptions taken out.
Why would the new language arts curriculum get rid of those courses?
So the curriculum adoption allowed us to provide more time, probably more than anything else new, to our ELA department. So we went from having about 47 minutes to having twice that amount of time for each of our kids in the ELA department, where they can focus a little bit more on writing in addition to some of the reading standards that they work on as well. So it provided the time for us to hopefully bolster our core instruction to not need so much intervention. So that's what we're hoping to see some results of this year, and I'll I'll keep you posted as we go with that.
Thank you so much.
The second thing that I want to bring your attention to, it's kind of a same thing. It's an addition, however. On page 3, you'll see an addition of wellness there at the bottom. And then the course description for that. We actually approved that last year, kind of late in the spring. It was an addition to the schedule. It just didn't get put in the registration handbook last year. So now it's in there with the course description for everybody to see. Not that you need to look at them again, but the final thing that I have that's changing this year is the flow charts to match what Mr. Stewart just explained to you guys. That way students are seeing, parents are seeing from 6 through 12 the same progression in both his and mine.
And just a point of applause for you and previous high school person, Mr. Stewart. Those flow charts are kind of new creations the past couple of years, and I think it really helps give our parents a snapshot of what their child's education could look like for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And I think that's a nice addition to our handbook. So, it's well done.
Keeps us in the lane. Too.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's hard for kids and even sometimes for our parents to see the long-term effects of making a decision in 7th grade. Well, here's what this will look like as 11th and 12th grade. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And one addition on the high school, on the last page, the wrestling needs to have a star next to it because girls in the high school do wrestling.
Right. Okay. Good catch.
Item 13, communications report. You're up.
In 3 days, I got nothing for you.
He's always off to a good start.
I wrote the report that I found the building, I found my office, and I'm logged into everything I need to be logged into.
Drop your phone as well.
Perfect.
Well, I didn't want to report that.
All
Very
right.
good.
Item 14, adjournment. Also move. Second.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Story. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Default,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Wooten,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And we'll
everybody.
see you in 2023.
Good night.
Yeah.